States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'll call the meeting to order. This is a public hearing at June 19, 5:45, in room 103. I'll go ahead and call the meeting to order. Those present: Darrell Baker, County Clerk; Charles Vance, President; Phoebe Barnes, Commissioner; K.K. Matthews, Commissioner. The sole purpose of this public hearing is to get input regarding the Small Cities Block Grant application for the Lower Mud River Water Project Phase 2, and I'll go ahead and let Kathy talk.
At the first public meeting that the Small Cities Block Grant Program requires, we typically let you know the kinds of things that you can apply for through Small Cities Block Grant Program funding. The primary one that we've seen over the last several years is, of course, been water and wastewater projects. The maximum you can request for those is $1.5 million. This year, the June 30th deadline also includes community development type projects. They have added an October 30th deadline for economic development, self-help water projects, and or broadband projects. The broadband initiative is a new function through the West Virginia Development Office, and it will be incorporating the West Virginia Broadband Council. So we look forward to seeing some interest in that, because we know that a lot of the places that we work in do not have adequate speed or broadband capability to serve their businesses, schools, regular everyday customers like us, hospitals, healthcare facilities. So we certainly hope to see some good outcome from those. What we're looking at this evening is a water line extension continuation project. It was a phase 1, which we're in right now, and this would be phase 2. It's the Lower Mud River Water Line Extension Project. So if you have any kinds of questions or anything, I can try to answer. If I can't give you an answer, I'll get you an answer. But they are due June the 30th. So we're working along.
June the 30th, you mean to be complete? Or
Yes, it has to be signed and submitted by June the 30th.
not the work being done, you're saying?
Oh, no, sir. The application for the funding.
Wasn't water supposed to start in February?
That might have been the phase 1 project. It got held up by a HUD floodway issue, and the definition of that that HUD came out with was it delayed several projects across the state, and there was quite a bit of conversation about it. But recently, some of the HUD folks went to a FEMA intensive training and figured out that the FEMA definition of floodway was not what HUD was trying to interpret it as. And so that has removed barriers for all of those projects that were being impacted by that. And that phase 1 project should be moving along pretty quickly now.
Yeah.
Any specific start date?
I think part of that depends on the acquisition of the easements that are required for the project. You have to be at 80% before you can request authorization to bid. You have to be at 100% before you can close on any loans or anything like that. And I honestly, last time I heard Rick Roberts, the engineer with E.L. Robinson, talk about that, seemed to me like they were approaching 70%, and that's been maybe 6 weeks ago. So I think we're moving along pretty well with it. And I think that the goal is to try to at least have it authorized for bid and advertised by the end of the summer, maybe early fall. But that floodway issue really, put a hold on everything. So we're fortunate that they figured out that FEMA knew a little more about that.
Okay. I'm gonna just go down through these names of people who signed in and see if you wanna ask them. I think this is West May.
McCoy.
Boy, is that you?
Yeah.
Did you have any input in what we were talking about doing? What we're talking about tonight is the phase 2 application process that we have to go through, and this is a public hearing for any input into that project before we submit the application at the end of the month. The phase one project's already been funded. We have that funded, and as you mentioned, the waiver that was required from HUD for us has been, since the requirement for that waiver's been lifted, so we don't have to wait.
That's been took care of.
Yeah, that we can go forward on that. I talked with Senator Senator Manchin on the Friday after we had our last meeting, and then on Tuesday, Senator Capito's office notified me that the need for a waiver was no longer needed by the HUD people. So then we received some information from Rick Roberts, I think, and some of those were telling us we could go ahead with that. So the thing that was holding us up on phase one is no longer there. So this is for phase two, which extends the water street project down through there. Did you have any questions in particular?
Oh, I was just the time frame, because I'm in the process of doing the house, and when I go I'm doing a construction loan, when I turn over to a conventional loan, I have to have water, and it'd be bad to drill a well and only need it for
Now, are you
6
on the
months.
phase two side of it, the one we're
Phase
talking
Yeah,
about?
Rose's Run.
You would be on phase one. Phase one goes to Buffalo, is that correct?
Phase two is Buffalo and Little Buffalo Creek.
Okay, so you would be in we'd be in phase one.
Yeah, so yours is already, we're basically talking about starting that project sometime this year. And it usually takes them about a year to finish it. So depending on what they run into, that's usually what I historically has happened, so. Okay, Danielle McCoy?
I got no questions.
Sure.
I got no questions.
Linda Mullins? Okay. Vicki Salmons?
No, I've asked everything.
Okay. All right. Daniel Salmons?
We were just under the assuming that it was, dirt was gonna fly in February, and we would be done by fall.
Well, that's when we're talking about this particular requirement for a waiver from HUD came out of Philadelphia.
And that's stopping from digging,
Yeah.
Oh, yes.
well, how come we can't start tomorrow? I mean, we've been trying to get water down there for over 20
I
years.
can understand and
If you go online and look at this project, and it says February, it should be done in November. And if you keep looking back, the first time we did anything was in '97. Well, how many other people in Lincoln County's got water since '97?
understand.
It's not us.
Well, it's not us, we've done everything we can.
Do you think really that reason we were left behind was that thing that was in the paper that you could get off of the internet? It tells all of our whole project, started in '09, went on through there. The papers were signed, it's all in there. Everything was ready to go, then it just stopped. Then it went to Allen Creek.
The only thing,
I kind of believe it's cause we didn't have enough of people down there. And Allen Creek had a whole bunch of people.
well, I know some of the funding from one of the projects over there came from a DEP settlement with Hopedale. In left fork when they took water across that line.
See, some of our money for Little Mud River was put on that too, remember?
Well, I don't know exactly which funding went. I mean, I know once funding is designated for a grant project, and it's been 17 years I've worked with these projects, is once it's for a project, that's what it has to be spent on. I mean, you can't just take it out and put it somewhere else. I know at one time, I received an ARC grant for 10 Mile Creek on the other side of the county, and they were gonna move the monies from 10 Mile Creek onto the Route 37 project, and we couldn't do that either. So, but the funding's all in order for phase one, and and as soon as we can start that, and I think Kathy will tell you, they're gonna do everything they can to get it started. It will be started, it will, once it's started, it will be finished. As far as what we do, we try to get the monies for it. We have the monies for that project.
You know, it's really hard, it's been a long time, and when all you can do is flush a commode with your water, and you have to carry water up 13 steps, or pull it up with a rope, all of it, and all the money we have to pay with water, we have to use water for everything except flushing the commode.
Well, and I'm hoping as soon as they can get started on that, they will. I mean, if I could go out there and start digging today, I would. but
Well,
it's not.
it should have done been down there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So has it already went out to bid and you've got a contractor that's doing it?
No, it's not.
No?
The thing that's what she was talking about, once they get the people signed up on the project, then it will go out.
Then we have to
There's-
request authorization to bid.
And then once you receive authorization to bid, you can bid it, and then it's held for so many days.
90-day bid hold period. You check all of the insurance and the bonds of the contractor. You wanna make sure that you have somebody, reliable and responsible doing that work.
So there's no way in the world you can even get started till late fall.
Um,
Because 90 days, you're talking, already it's June, July, August, and September. That's if they gave you approval tomorrow.
well, there's an email that was sent to the commission from Rick Roberts, who's, with E.L. Robinson.
The engineer.
Yeah, he said that, I'll just read the email. It says, "The critical path right now is getting PSC approval. The project was submitted on April the 18th, and it's usually a 4 to 6 month process. Unfortunately, there is not much that can be done to speed up the PSC. A lot of the process is statutory. We are working on easements and hope to have 80% in hand by the end of the month. 80% needed to go to bid. The district needs to collect the tap fees and have the money in account before we are allowed to go to bid. Hopefully, upon receiving Public Service Commission approval, we'll be ready to go to bid." That's Rick.
Why won't they approve it?
Well, they will, it just has to go through that
And
process.
that's a public service commission?
Yes, ma'am.
They
If
have
you
a-
want, if you want the email, but that was, he was talking about that, this was received on June the 14th. So that's by the end of the month. So that's where you're at on the project.
By statute, they have a certain amount of time to process and issue
Yeah.
a certificate for a project.
Well, can you tell me that they had to run in a paper about Lower Mud River water, and you could get this thing off of all about Lower Mud River water, and it showed what papers had been signed, it's like it was ready to go, and it started in '09, and then suddenly it just quit, and then the next page it says Alum Creek water.
I wasn't involved in that process, so I'm sorry I can't respond to
So I
that.
wonder why that it didn't.
Was it Allen Creek or Alcohol?
It's all up through there.
Alcohol was different, funding scenario than this project is too.
So it's a lot of information on that, I mean a lot, cause it's about this thick.
Because we had a meeting here about some of the money from our project being transferred to the alcohol project. And the PSC got a hold of it, and y'all had to go up there, and they said if you didn't get money back in our project, that they cancel both of them.
No, that was the alcohol project. There was money that was missing in the alcohol project. If the money wasn't replaced in the alcohol project, then they were gonna lose all funding for that project.
Including the funding for Phase 1 Mud River.
Yes.
And that's why we got to put that money back in the alcohol project, and it wasn't the money from Lower Mud. It was monies we took out of the general county fund to make sure that we didn't lose funding for the alcohol project or the Lower Mud. If we had it, we'd had to go back
Well,
to stage one.
How was alcohol picked in Lower Mud River not? And y'all were both trying to keep them from losing them?
No, they were both seeking funding. We were along the process of getting funding, and what happened was they came up 267, I think about that amount, $1,000 short over there. And what we did, the commission decided that we'd go ahead, even though we had contributed monies to that project already, that we'd contributed more monies to it to prevent your all's project from stopping. Because they were going to not only not do the alcohol project, but we're not going to do your all's project.
They were gonna pull all federal funding from the alcohol project and from this project, your project.
Well, how did you decide which one needed to get it then?
No,
It wasn't
both of
that.
them would have lost their funding. If we hadn't have come up with the $267,000, the alcohol project would not have been completed, and your alls wouldn't even start.
But does it usually take 20 years to get water?
It usually takes about 4 to 5 years once you
Oh,
have
so
it.
we're about almost 3 times that?
Yeah. Well, I'm just talking about, back in I think it's 1992, well, no, it was in 2002, I think it was. We had a 10-year water plan that we developed.
We weren't on that?
Yeah, you were on that. This is finishing up that, I don't think Phase 2 was, but I think Phase 1 was the best I remember, but that's been 15 years ago or something of that nature, so. In fact, we have talked some about wanting to have another countywide water plan, but the problem is we're so short on federal funding now that we can only set projects up and then try to get funding for them as we can. But I'd like to go ahead, if it's okay, and is there any more comments concerning the Phase 2 project? Yes.
Dr. Vance, I have lived on Lower Mud River all my life. And I'll soon be 83 years old. I graduated from Hammond High School. I've lived here all my life. When I was a kid going to school, my mom and dad told me, he said, son, you'll see city water down this road one of these days. And they told me that, said, we're gonna have city water down through here. But here I am, almost 83 years old, and I still haven't seen no
You
sign
know,
of it.
there's older people down there that's in that phase too, at Little Buffalo, that's, it takes everything they got to buy these, it's the puckets up there. Everything they got to buy this here, had to put this big filter thing in and all this stuff, cause both of them sick and they couldn't carry water if they wanted to.
Well, you know, that's one of the reasons that phase two is, as the priority it does, is we're in an area, we want to extend it as far as we can into those people that need that. Any more comments concerning phase two?
One of the things that, that we had in the phase one project application and that I would like to incorporate into this one as well if possible is a petition from the people who are going to be served by the phase two project, documenting that you want the water and will take the water. And also, we had some photographs of the water and some of the staining of your, utility. Can we get some more pictures? Because folks who are gonna be looking at the application are gonna be smart enough to know, oh, well, we saw these in the last application. If I could get some more photographs.
Well, you know, really and truly, I've got all kinds of stuff in jars, cloths, everything. I've got all that, pictures, I've got everything. And I have sent everything that I got off of the internet, I have sent all of them everywhere. And a lot of those, no politician has responded except Evan Jenkins one time. I told him to come to my house, I wanted to show him all this stuff. Well, and he sent his...
Michael?
Yeah, Michael. And Michael, oh, Miss McComas, you'll have running water down here. I'm still waiting.
Okay,
I would like,
yeah.
Hattie, before we meet next week, can you find out from Rick exactly where we are on the easement?
Absolutely.
And where we are on the user
time.
agreement?
Yes.
Because this has been a little bit different than the alcohol, because they got the user agreements first before.
RUS requires that you have all of those in hand before you can bid the project.
It seems to me like over there they had those, did they not, anything before they even got the funding scenario together?
It took
I
a
mean, they had a long
long,
time, didn't they?
long time to get
They
those.
started getting them a long, before that funding scenario came through, but then before it went out to bid, they had to have all of them.
Has he started on that, you think, or, I mean?
Yes, I do.
So they've been going around getting these user agreements? Okay, if you don't care, because we're gonna meet again next Monday, just
Yes.
find out exactly.
Okay.
Anybody? If not, I'll ask for a motion to adjourn this public hearing.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second
All in
that.
favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, guys, what we're gonna do here is we're gonna go into our commission special session meeting at a little after 6 p.m.
Could I ask you one more question?
Yeah, go right ahead.
When are we going to be paying the money to take up the tax fee?
That's what they were talking about, us finding out when they were going to do that stuff. So next Monday at this time, we should have an answer to that. That's what she was asking.
5:45 again.
Yes.
Somebody from the Lincoln PSD will be going around doing that, or will, because that's the way it happened before.
That's what they're,
See, they're real careful on that, just historically speaking, because they went over and collected a lot of tap fees before when they had, and then they didn't do it. I don't know what happened to tap fees, but they didn't have any projects completed or anything. This was back many years ago when I first got on the commission. And I think that's one of the reasons that they're very, very careful in making sure they got all their ducks in a row, which we appreciate, because we don't like any amount of money.
Usually they just tell people to come one certain place and pay it.
But we'll
I think
have a
they
lot,
did that at
we'll know,
Yeah.
we'll know more about that next Monday. So. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and call the special session meeting for President Bill Baker County Clerk Charles Vance, President. President, Phoebe Harris, Commissioner, and K.K. Matthews, Commissioner. I'll go ahead. The first thing is discussion concerning possible actions for Region 2. And you have the application or what any information you want to put in, give them the meeting to now concerning the public hearing. Or
We will bring the application next week for signing, and I'll need to have the minutes from the public meeting. And if you can go ahead and make a motion in the formal commission meeting requesting us to go ahead and prepare that application for submission.
Okay, do I have a motion to go ahead and authorize Region 2 to go ahead and prepare the application for the Lower Mud River Water Project Phase 2?
Also moved.
Also,
All those in favor say aye.
Thank
We
you.
got our permission. Okay, next on the agenda is Darrell Baker's County Clerk's request for 85 total hours of overtime to complete the indexing and scanning grant project. Darrell, you want to speak on that?
We just had some stuff to finalize and get ready for next year's grant, and this will kind of give us a baseline on what we're gonna do exactly with the money next year, on how we're gonna operate the grant funding.
And this is already funded through the grant we have now.
Yeah, yes, this is funded, there's no extra money coming from the commission, it's already what we had budgeted.
So is there a motion to approve the county clerk's request?
so moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye. The next on the agenda is to approve a resolution that in order to alleviate flooding problems in Lincoln County, the hazardous mitigation program application will be submitted to the state hazard mitigation program.
I have this resolution, but Alan says we've already entered it, so I don't know. I've never actually got to see Alan. I've been trying to do this through text messages, so,
Let's go ahead and enter it again.
Okay, so do I have a motion to go ahead and enter the resolution presented by Alan Holder, 911 Director, concerning the hazard mitigation grant program?
So moved.
Is there a second? All those in favor say aye.
Now, does that application include a list of approved homes?
it is a resolution that is very
Okay.
short.
Why don't we go ahead, we can go ahead and give him a copy of that. Give him a
Okay.
copy of it.
And I just copied the wording. That's the reason the word application's in it, because it's at the top.
Yeah, but the motion doesn't make much sense. It's saying to approve a resolution, and then it throws in the phrase hazard mitigation plan program application. Is this the application, or is it a resolution to?
It says this is a resolution that in order to alleviate flooding problems in Lincoln County, that the hazard mitigation applications will be submitted to state.
Okay.
I
Again,
think the resolution has to go with the application.
Yeah, it
It's
does,
part
and
of
it establishes the priorities for selection
Okay.
too.
Thank you.
Any commissioners have anything else they want? That's all the business we have for the special session. I'll ask for a motion that to adjourn till our public hearing
June 26th at 5:45.
June 26, 5:45, so a week from today.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, we stand adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.